Мой доклад посвящен старту.
Hi everybody, Alexander Bondarenko. Raise your hand please if you are contemplating starting your own business in information security. Anyone? Raise your hand now if you believe you are not a business person, you'll never start your business InfoSec or anything else. I won't have the time to tell you everything, but I'll try to cover the main points. I'm the head of a company that has been in business for the last 5 years. We have 15 people. We develop software for corporates. This year we reached a number of 100 corporate customers, all of them located in Russia, Belarus and Kazakhstan. Now, for those of you who don't know whether to start a business or not, could you please tell me what stops you from doing that? What are the biggest risks as you see them? No money. Any other issues? Any fears you have? I'm not sure I will succeed. Okay. Is that it? Well, I hear very often that taxation is horrible in this country. But the slide says it all. If you start an IT business in Russia, you will be paying 6% flat tax rate, not 20% as you would pay in the UK. Not 20 to 40% you would end up paying in the United States. It's 6% at worst. We can actually drive it down to 3% if you make enough pension fund contributions. That was the good stuff. The bad stuff is that 50% of the stuff you pay out as salaries, or 50% which you're getting now as salaries, actually goes to the state. Well, this is how income tax system works, because the employer is the tax agent. So if you start your own business, you will end up paying a lot of money in payroll and associated expenses. You can actually legitimately decrease the spending. How do you do that? Well, first you can register yourself as an IT company. That way you'll end up paying less. You can join Skolkovo, which is particularly good for small companies. Moreover, if you're still a small company, like 3 partners, you don't have to pay yourself salaries. You will be able to pay yourself dividends, and dividends are not taxed, which is not true. Actually, there is at least a 9%, possibly a 13% dividend tax rate. But it's certainly better than what you would pay if you paid yourself salaries. Now, there is this commercial on Russian TV that if you are getting your salary from the employer, as we call them, in an envelope, which still happens quite often, well, you won't get your pension benefits. At least your pension will not increase. Now let's stop fooling yourselves, okay? If you think that now that you work for a decent company and you have a pretty good salary, so enough contributions are made towards your pension plan, you will be rich when you get really, really old. Stop fooling yourself, this will not happen. Remember that everything you do today will be used towards supporting old age pensioners today. Would you start a business here or outside the country? For those who want to start here, I've got bad news. Anybody knows a company that started working in Russia and successfully expanded globally, besides Kaspersky Labs? In the information security, Yandex is a good example, but in the info security field, Positive Technologies, okay, InfoWatch, Well, it gave me more examples than I expected. These companies certainly have shown some success, but so far they have not become world leaders yet, I hope. Oh, digital security, that's right. But we don't have enough examples like this. So the chances that you start a business here and then you successfully expand globally are pretty slim, although we are trying to do exactly that. You can start outside the country as well. But it certainly makes sense to start a new business in a market that you know, primarily in a country that you know. I won't start a hotel because I will certainly go bust. I know zilch about hotel business. All successful businesses usually started by people who've worked in the industry, right? They know the people, they know the business models. That's how they become successful. So if you want to start a business outside the country, now you can actually leave the country, work several years outside Russia as an advisor. You can work for an existing infosec firm, but I wouldn't recommend that you should start a business on the day you arrive in a new country. The moment you start business, your private life will be exposed to major shocks. If you also have family, kids, a mortgage, and other burdens, it will be tested even more. In fact, we know lots of examples where people have to make the hard choice. That is, you have to choose between keeping your family or keeping your company. So these things happen. I'm not inviting you to divorce if you want to start your own business. But if you're young and you still don't have any particular social responsibilities, please consider it as a golden opportunity to start a business. It will be much more difficult later. I know what I'm talking about. I've got 2 kids. So first thing first. Info security, IT are heavily dominated by technologists. What happens quite often, though, is that people forget about the soft stuff. You know, they come up with a fancy tech, and then they're surprised to learn that customers don't give a damn about the fancy language you use or the fancy algos you use. What they care about is whether you can actually resolve his problem. And aesthetics, design, ergonomics could matter hugely. And unfortunately, this is something that many Russian corporations don't pay enough attention to. Whether your software is convenient, whether it's designed nicely or not, are extremely important considerations. Now, if you don't package it properly, you will find it very difficult to sell. Technology is extremely important, there's no doubt about that, but you shouldn't really focus on technology that much, because otherwise only geeks will be able to use what you make. And this doesn't provide for a good business. You must have heard about a guy named Steve Jobs, right? Well, few people appreciate that had there been no Steve Wozniak, there would have been no Steve Jobs. But without Steve Jobs, there would be no Apple. If you believe that your great product will be taken up by great partners right away, you're horribly mistaken. You will have to sell the product yourself for the first time because nobody else will pitch it for you. You shouldn't really expect a partner or a distributor to be an enthusiastic ambassador or evangelist, simply because your product is a no-name, it has no history, you don't have customers. So the chances of selling it are very slim. And a sales manager will know that very well. It's so much easier to sell Semantic, for example, or Positive Technologies compared to no-name, because they have this kind of trade-off, right? They want to put money on the table, and they don't want to exert too much effort doing that. And when you show your product, and somebody tells you, I'm happy to take it, or it's bullshit, I won't buy it. This is a very important source of feedback for you. Now, if sales don't happen, there are three possible reasons. You either have a lousy product, you're a lousy salesperson, or you haven't chosen the right audience. There are no other possible explanations. Well, maybe you're a lousy salesperson. It could be great to start your business alone. Well, you must be feeling like a real man, a macho, something sort of a type. However, in order to be successful in doing that, you need a wide array of competences. You need a hacker, a hustler. What was the third one? I don't remember. So you need marketing people, you need sales people, you need a technologist. If you combine all these competences, you're a genius. My congratulations. However, chances are you won't be able to do everything on your own because it's such a huge amount of work. So you can either hire people who will be helping you, but that will cost you money. For some reason, people usually refuse to work for free. Or alternatively, you can find partners. The people who will be prepared to work for a stake in the company, not for a salary. Well, the advantage is that don't you have to pay money, which will be limited at this stage. And the disadvantage is that you should select your partners very carefully, as carefully as you would select a future wife. Because you will spend your life in the trenches with those guys for 5 years, maybe 10 years before you emerge from the trenches. So you'll be sitting in this trench with him for all this time, in the trench with him and his bugs. And usually conflicts between partners lead to destruction and dissolution of business. I don't know of a single case where conflicts between partners lead to anything else. So if you start a business with somebody who you are not really in love with, that's a bad idea. Well, it's great when you split the functions in line with your competences. I have very little time left, so I'll speed up. You must have played the game, right? Transport Tycoon, right? Now, you might remember that in this game you could get a particular bonus for performing something special. In real business, it works in the same way. If you come up with a product thinking that it should sell because it's great, that's a bad business model. Find a customer pain. Any business about plans, numbers, and papers, you will have to do all these calculations every time. You will have to make the decisions about how you will spend the extra money, and very often how will you pay the salaries. It is part and parcel of your business. Either one of the partners does it, or you don't have a business and you will fail. A few words about Skolkovo. This is what most people think about when they hear about Skolkovo. So they think, okay, there are these Tajik migrant workers working there. It costs the country loads of money. Well, we are part of Skolkovo and we know that the reality is very different. In terms of infrastructure, it's indeed a huge mess, but the ecosystem is there and is developing. So Skolkovo can give you funds, can provide you with business support. For example, in June, 10 companies from Skolkovo will go to London Info Security, and they don't pay a cent for that. And you can get additional services for a fraction of the cost. So that could be a pretty good opportunity for many of you guys. I don't have the time to tell you about looking for investors. Well, we are considering investment proposals. However, the market is very small. I mean, the number of investors who actually understand something about information security is very small. And a Western investment fund will want to see your track record outside the country because they don't give a damn how many customers you have outside Russia. But even a single customer outside Russia should be already very useful. Well, obviously, we started our expansion with the countries that pretty much speak the same language. So this year, we're testing our capabilities in Europe and the Middle East. It's a bit more difficult, but we will try it nonetheless. Well, some of you guys might be interested in all these import substitution games. We are not. I believe that entrepreneurial risks are often overestimated. Well, the biggest risk really is that realizing when you're 60 that you don't have any pension savings to live off from. I've tried to paint a pretty rosy picture for you here. Obviously, business is about blood, sweat, and tears. When I registered my company, there was this statement apparently coming from Vladimir Putin that those who start their own business in Russia must be given medals for courage. You know what? They don't give you medals for nothing. Very often, medals are rewarded post-mortem. So you gotta die first. And it's very important because you take responsibility for yourselves and the people who work for you. You'll have to keep asking yourselves whether you will have enough money to pay salaries next week. It's not like you getting your money every month and you sleep well at night. Now, you might have heard that every week a central bank of the Russian Federation will revoke one or two licenses. And individuals usually have their money returned or recompensed to them by the state. But companies never do. Thank you, I'm done. All right, these are my contacts. Any questions? Well then, I wish success to anybody who would want to start their own business.